Accountability is a vital and key part of the process of restoration. Hi, it's Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 3, the Torah portion, Naso. In Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter number 5, we find the incredible story of the Sota. We'll get to her tomorrow, big tease there. Prior to that, though, is written some words that we kind of overlook, maybe don't pay enough attention to, that really sets the scene for what we'll talk about tomorrow. In verse number 1 of chapter 5, Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "Command the children of Israel to send out of the camp every leper and everyone who has a discharge, and whoever becomes defiled for a being. Send them out of the camp. Send out both male and female. Send them outside the camp, so they do not defile their camps in the midst of which I dwell." And the children of Israel did so, to send them outside the camp, as Yahweh has spoken to Moshe, so the children of Israel did. And we'll come back in just a few moments and pick up with verse number 5. So those that are defiled, it could be sarat that we've talked about before, which is the skin disorder that reveals an inward spiritual condition. It is a malady that needs to be repented of. It could be just some sort of boil that is oozing, some bodily fluid discharge that is abnormal, something. When one has a contagious virus or bacteria, we think nothing about, you need to stay home until you get over this. Otherwise, you're going to just pick it up and carry it around and pass it around. Anytime you come up with one of these things, you immediately begin to think, who was it that I got this from? Who is the culprit here? Where did I pick this up? Sometimes it's just life. It seems to be at an insult to injury at times to send people out of the camp who are already embarrassed or frustrated, aggravated in dealing with some sort of ceremonial uncleanness. But the reality is the camp of Israel is unique. We're not talking about modern society here. We're not talking about local community standards. We're talking about the body of Messiah. We're talking about dealing with issues that are spiritual in nature and have spiritual ramifications. So, this is not the common cold that you're trying to avoid passing around. When everybody does their job and fulfills the roles with duty and in respect to their calling, as we talked about yesterday, when they do so with joy and gladness in serving the King, when they're not jealous over what their brother may have and are coveting it, we find that there is an opportunity for Shekinah, the glory, the manifested light and presence of Yah, to dwell with us. However, that light and that glory can be inconvenient in that it causes us to become scrupulous about how we walk, how we live, how we relate with one another, what words are coming out of our mouth, what meditations are lodging in our heart. We have to pay attention to these things. The glory of Elohim, the Shekinah, the light and manifested presence of Yah, is worth such scrutiny and the attention to that level of detail. A favorite passage of mine from the book of Isaiah, Yeshayahu, is chapter 60, the first 5 verses. "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the esteem of Yahweh has risen upon you. For look, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. But Yahweh arises over you, and his esteem, his Shekinah, his light, his manifested presence, is seen upon you." So we're talking about people who do not give in to the worldly trend of dwelling in darkness. It would seem at this point, whenever this takes place, however it takes place, that it is common for people to dwell in an attitude and a spiritual domain of darkness. Now, it may be physical darkness to some respect, but this is, I think, primarily, specifically, spiritual darkness. When people become encapsulated in that, the norm is to join them in the darkness. But there are a people who are paying attention to the details, who are remaining clean, and the light, the manifested presence of Yah, Shekinah, is dwelling on them and in them. Continuing, and the nations shall come to your light, and the sovereigns to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see all of them and gather. They have come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are supported on the side. Then you shall see and be bright, and your heart shall throb and swell. For the wealth of the sea is turned to you. The riches of the nations comes to you. There is a perceived benefit then for those that are in darkness to want to leave the darkness and come to the brightness of whatever is manifested on the people, the covenant people of Elohim. In that day, as they come, leaving their darkness, it's not as though that they are immediately clean. They're going to need to go through the process of restoration, which means as they approach the camp, we may have to say to them, stay on the outside of the perimeter of the camp until you learn how to be clean. So if we're striving to be clean and striving to live upright and striving to walk righteously, to allow those who live unrighteously out of their desperation just to come and try to cling to us, compassion says, I love you. Let me introduce you to the Messiah. Let me process you and help you to grow into a place where you can walk with us. It's not automatic. One of the greatest mistakes that we've made in the body of Messiah is that people come to Messiah, get born again, and we immediately think that all is fixed, all is well, and they can just process normally without any issues from their past. There needs to be discipleship. There needs to be training. There needs to be encouragement. Addictions might need to be broken. Habits overcome. Mindsets need to change. Yes, they're new on the inside, but the flesh is still raging and looking to be in charge. And so we go back to Numbers chapter number 5, and it talks about, beginning with verse 5, Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel when a man or a woman commits any sin that men commit in trespass against Yahweh, and that being is guilty, they shall confess their sin that they have done, and restore their guilt in its principal, plus 1/5 of it, and give it to whomever he has been guilty. We're talking about restoration. We're talking about restitution. We're talking about reconciliation. We're talking about making things right. Yeshua is looking for fruits of repentance. To say I'm sorry is not the crux of repentance. It is turning away from the sin that we have lived in and beginning to walk in a different direction, turning and returning to the Most High. That process means recognizing where we've done others wrong, where we've wronged our family, where we've wronged ourselves, where we have wronged Yah, and making restoration and restitution wherever it is possible. Some things the individual harmed, they're no longer with us. And so it directs here that if you have no relative to restore the guilt to, it goes to Yahweh, to the priest. And so there is a means of giving or restoring. Yah does not want to leave us in darkness. He calls us to the light. However, that process requires accountability, making right judgments. It means dealing with our issues. It means overcoming stuff. Get rid of the stuff. The stuff is too heavy to carry around. You want to be light. Light in your weight and be light in His glory. We'll talk more about these things tomorrow. Until then, shalom.